all the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist? You're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs? Fuck you. War.
Hello everyone and good evening. I'm Millie Weaver and tonight I'm going to be going over the latest election results. We're going to go over election updates and what we can expect next in this process where President Trump has now been filing lawsuits, voters are demanding audits, and we've already seen many people come forward with testimony as witnesses to systemic election fraud. That includes a USPS postal worker who has now submitted an affidavit. So I'm going to be going over the latest election results news. But, first, I just want to say, is anyone else buying this other than the Democrats who obviously have a bias for wanting to ignore objective reality? I know you're not, and neither am I. And we're not alone. In fact, we are many people. When we see this pattern of votes being paused overnight, and then here come these giant dumps of votes only for Joe Biden, where we saw 138,000 votes overnight go to Joe Biden and not a single other candidate, not President Trump, not Joe Jurgensen, not Howie Hawkins, got a single vote in that dump. That is statistically impossible. We're going to go over new evidence that internet sleuths and investigators have been drudging up. And we are going to also talk about election rigging and how they also use these electronic voting systems, which have major conflicts of interest and which are compromised by foreign interests. So let's get started here. Let's take you first to my handy dandy Twitter, where we're going to talk about how in Philadelphia, people caught, our poll watchers were not allowed in Philadelphia, as you remember, but some of them were standing outside. And what they saw happening outside was quite alarming. They saw a pattern of people that were allowed to going in with backpacks and large bags nonstop, just in and out, bags and backpacks. You think that they should be checked for ballots in such a contentious election, wouldn't you? But that isn't what happened. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Outside of the Philadelphia Convention Center, and there's potentially some more fraud going on this evening at about 10, 11 p.m. What time is it right now? What time does this happen?
12:01.
It happened about 11:30?
11 p.m.
Okay.
So, I'm a volunteer with the Trump campaign. I was told to go to the Philadelphia Convention Center to wait in the lobby to see if I saw anything suspicious. The main thing that we were looking for were large groups of people coming in with suitcases, with bags, and we had been there for maybe no more than 10 or 15 minutes when we saw a steady stream of individuals coming in with backpacks, purses, getting in, going through the metal detectors. They had credentials to get in. There must have been at least 40 to 50 individuals with backpacks coming through in the past hour. We specifically brought this up to the Philadelphia Police Department. They said we're going to check with our superiors, let you know if we can check the bags. I asked multiple times. Finally, a deputy commissioner inside came up to me, was questioning me, was being very aggressive, erratic. I said, sir, we just want to make sure the bags are being checked. They're specifically going up to the vote counting area. And when I brought this up, I said, sir, you guys are checking them for weapons, but you're not specifically checking them for ballots. He got very nervous, erratic. He put his hands on his head. He said it's too late to be dealing with this. He immediately went to the Philadelphia Police Department, who then came up to us and said that we needed to leave the lobby, which we had every right to be there. We have a court order from the state that says that we can observe ballots, and we were in the lobby. We weren't even in the voting area. So We sat outside
Look
of the
at those
Philadelphia
bags
Convention
that they're
Center for
carrying
probably
in.
about 30
Large
minutes.
bags
We
and
must have seen
backpacks.
dozens of individuals coming in with backpacks and purses late at night. They were granted easy entrance to the facility, and after about 45 minutes, officers came out and said we had to get behind the barricade.
Which is not really that surprising, given that we have seen videos surface on social media where you can actually see people filling out. These are vote counters, and they're filling out ballots themselves. And there's even one instance where a security guard walks right by, stares at the woman filling out these ballots, and just walks on by. Sees it, but doesn't care. But, you know, Philadelphia has had a history of voter fraud, and it has been well documented. This is not something I'm just saying, it's been well documented. So next, we're going to move on to a man who was a Republican poll watcher in Philadelphia who was kicked out. He wasn't allowed to watch to make sure the ballots were being counted. And even some of the people in some cities across the U.S. that were allowed to be in, the GOP people were made to stand 15 to 20 and sometimes even 30 feet away from the votes so that they couldn't even make sure the votes that were being counted were legitimate. This is unlawful, and it is not how our elections are supposed to be ran. So let's listen and hear from this guy here who's calling out one of the security guards who's telling him he cannot enter even though he has been certified to enter.
I got a badge. I got a badge right here. I'm observing people, and this gentleman, he's running. He threw me out. America, don't stand for this. I got a badge. I got a badge right here. I'm observing people, and this gentleman.
He says America don't stand for this because he knows that this is wrong. It's not the way the system is supposed to be ran. You're supposed to have poll watchers from either side so that both sides can be certain that it was a fair election. When you have the Democrats being allowed to watch, but you don't have the Republicans being allowed to watch, how can anyone expect the Republican people to not feel disenfranchised and to not feel cheated from this whole experience? This is a serious issue because we're beginning to lose faith in the democratic system where we have these elections. I mean, this is a major, major issue here. Next, let's go to the Doug Collins, who gave a speech in Georgia because Georgia is now going to be recounted because the margin of votes was different enough. So let's hear what Doug Collins has to say.
You got to understand this. Every illegal vote cast suppresses a legal vote. You got to understand this. Every illegal...
Exactly. Every illegal vote suppresses a legal vote. That is why we need to audit. We need to all demand that the election system, we pay for it, we're the taxpayers, we should demand an audit. 100%. We should demand it. I heard that there are going to be some petitions going around. I know Tori Says on her Twitter account has passed around a Google Doc of a letter that she's encouraging everyone to send and mail to the White House, basically demanding an audit, saying that you're a taxpayer, this is your right. We have a right to free and fair elections, and since we even paid to have these elections held in the first place, we, if we're suspicious and there's enough evidence, should have the right to do an audit. The Democrats claimed that the 2016 election was invalid because they alleged election interference and election meddling. Russian interference, they said, for the past 4 years when there was not even any evidence, not a semblance of evidence. Yet on social media, just over the last couple days, we have just seen floods and floods of evidence. It's insane. Let's talk about the dead voters. That's an interesting one. See, numbers, statistics, graphs, they offer amazing visualizations of evidence. They don't lie. Numbers don't lie either. So when these audits happen, it's going to be very curious because we're going to start to see who was fudging the numbers and how they were being fudged. So let's look at this. So if you look at this graph here, it says 90-plus-year-olds in Pennsylvania. This is the registration of 90-plus. So that explains those 120-year-old voters that we've been seeing on the rolls. Those who were born in 1900. I mean, my goodness, you'd think that we should purge the voter rolls, right? Of people who've been long deceased. Look at that, 2020, the registration of people over 90. That doesn't even make sense for the population numbers of 90-year-olds in the demographics. 2020, that in itself is an anomaly and should be investigated, wouldn't you say? If Trump had won the election and we had seen these really bizarre anomalies when we're looking at graphs and statistics and the actual numbers, I'm sure the Democrats would be up in arms and they would be demanding audits, they would be demanding recounts, and we would probably just be like, all right, sure, because we all want a free and fair election, right? But are we supposed to really believe that Joe Biden, who even in 2018, when he was campaigning, because he didn't even campaign this year, okay? Because of COVID, right? Which really is just an excuse to hide that he didn't have voter turnout because, you see, no one was going to believe that he could win a massive landslide. Basically, he has made a record. We're supposed to believe Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Hussein Obama? Really? Sorry, the man couldn't even fill up a small 250 occupancy building in Pittsburgh in 2018 during his primaries. And we're supposed to believe that he's more popular than Barack Obama, that he could have a massive landslide, and that's all fair? That's all above board right there? We can have like 120% voter turnout in some states. More voters than registered voters? Yeah, no, sorry, I'm not buying it. And this is ridiculous that the Democrats are trying to use peer pressure and conformity to pressure you to just accept it. And the mainstream media, or should I say, the fake news industrial complex, has been in full gear trying to disenfranchise you, trying to make it seem like Joe Biden won fair and square and that Trump's just being a sore loser and that we should all just accept it. We should all just try to make nice and just concede and accept Joe Biden as our president when, one, the Democrats in the past 4 years have never accepted President Trump as their president. It has been a witch hunt and a fight ever since he got in office, even before actually, because technically Obama initiated the spying on his campaign before he got in office, okay? But also, don't we care about free and fair elections in America? This is bigger than Donald Trump. It is. It's much bigger than Donald Trump. If we let this slide, we may never see a free and fair election in this country again. And I mean that because when I get into it with you guys about how they run these rigged elections and how they use these electronic voting softwares, how they can just print these ballots, and we literally have video footage on social media of counters, vote counters, filling them out. They're that bold. People have caught them. But see, the mainstream media has information dominance. So even though I'm here on social media, I'm on YouTube for now, I have about 450,000 subscribers, so about 500,000. You'd think, well, look at Millie, she's got subscribers on YouTube and she's got other ways to influence. Do you realize that the mainstream media, their information dominance, they've got the cable TV news stations, radio stations, and social media, and big tech, who's censoring people like me, who's already booted off many conservatives. Speaking of such, Andrew Breitbart, he was digitally executed today. Not Andrew Breitbart, sorry. Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was digitally executed today, all across social media. He might have said things that some people thought were controversial, but hey, this is America. We're supposed to have free speech. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And they're just trying to cover it up with other hippie stories on Steve Bannon. Whether you agree with him or not on some of his politics, it just goes to show they're boiling the frog, so to speak. It's only going to be a matter of time. See, boiling the frog is a metaphor where you put a frog in a pot of water on a stove and you put it in with warm water. It's going to stay there. It's going to swim around. And slowly but surely the temperature is going to go up and the frog will boil to death without even realizing it. If you try to throw a frog in a scalding hot pot of water, the frog's probably going to jump out the second it even gets there. It may be scalded, but hey, it's out and it's got its life saved, right? But see, we're just all sitting around here watching them pick people off one by one, thinking it's not going to happen to us because we're not going to say something too controversial, when this is just the tactic. See, if they did it to us all at once, it would create an uproar. Okay? Now, James O'Keefe, he's been putting out some pretty groundbreaking information. He has whistleblowers coming to him, USPS workers, people who are going to be witnesses, I'm assuming, in these cases. So let's go ahead and watch one of his latest videos here of one of his whistleblowers so you guys can get an idea of some of the evidence that's going to be brought forward in these cases.
On Wednesday the 4th, we checked in at the time clock. The postmaster then told us that if we were to find any ballots on our routes that day, we were to collect them, keep them separate in a hod, which is what we call our plastic bins, bring them back, and then we would put them in another hod, and then they would send them to be counted.
These were ballots that were collected on November the 4th, the day.
Yes.
Ballots in Pennsylvania have to be postmarked by 8 o'clock on Election Day, November the 3rd, or they will not be counted, according to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Yes, sir.
So ballots collected on after that date should not be counted. And you're saying that your postmaster or the supervisor, William Wood, and James Malley in a stand-up meeting, they said to separate those ballots and collect them?
The postmaster did. The postmaster or the supervisor did not say that we're going to backdate them. I was firmly of the belief that they were going to be backdated. I was definitely concerned. We're always hit with the Hatch Act. You can't talk about politics. You can't influence people. And on one occasion, the postmaster, James Malley, had attacked a carrier who had expressed support for Trump.
Where do you think this directive came down from?
James Malley he's a good soldier. That's what he always says. He's a good soldier. So if he was passing this on, these instructions, I feel confident that it came from above him somewhere.
Hello?
Hey, is this James Malley?
It is.
I have a whistleblower in your office there in Mills, Pennsylvania, who said that you were collecting ballots. I'm a reporter, by the way, and I'm asking a question for you. They were collecting ballots today, yesterday, separating them, potentially backdating them to November 3rd. Do you have any more information about this?
What paper are you with? Who are you with?
I'm with Project Veritas, and these ballots are being separated in your township, and you were told, you were given the order. My question is, who gave you that order to do that? Right? And it's a matter of public.
I'll refer you to our public relations people. Okay, you have a nice night.
So there you have it. The guy just hangs up on him because, hey, I mean, he's not going to answer that question, honestly, really. This is what's going on all across the nation right now. You have people who are willing to commit crimes. You have postmasters committing crimes, backdating ballots because Donald Trump beat Joe Biden, and now it's taking them an entire week to try to come up with ballots to beat him, is illegal, okay? The elections rules say that the ballot has to be stamped for November 3rd, okay? So everyone that voted most likely knew that rule, and some people who didn't, you know, that's unfortunate, but those are the rules of the election. But see, it's more suspicious because where are these ballots even coming from? And when you have poll watchers being kicked out of these buildings, not being allowed to watch these poll watchers count the ballots, you start to see the whole picture here when you look at all this evidence side by side. Another thing that we're going to look at here is the evidence of poll election workers filling out ballots. Not sure how people are able to catch these on cameras because I know that they've been banning cameras from the areas, but someone was able to get footage of this. I'm not sure if it's a security camera. It does look like it's potentially a security camera. But if it is a security camera, these people are pretty bold to be doing this in front of security cameras. And it's possible they just don't even know. And they're just the ignorant foot soldiers of this widespread voter scheme that's been happening. Look at that. Filling out ballots. Okay, filling out ballots. Now, one of the arguments that they try to make is, oh, they're making replacement ballots. That's what I heard someone say. I'm like, replacement ballots? Ballots get made as invalid if they aren't even marked properly, if there's something on there like a scribble or whatever. So what gives this person the right to fill out a ballot? And see, even if this is happening, I see one guy standing here. Shouldn't there be a Republican poll watcher? I don't know. This whole thing just looks beyond scandalous. Beyond scandalous. So the American people have a reason to be suspicious here. Another reason for people to be suspicious is that they've been finding ballots in dumpsters. Tons and tons of ballots in dumpsters. How are they finding these ballots? That's an interesting question in itself right there. But, you know, I've heard, now this is unconfirmed, but I have been hearing from sources that some of these ballots may or may not have some kind of RFID or nanotechnology that allows you to track them. So, I mean, that is unconfirmed, but do with it what you will. It is interesting considering they seem to be finding these ballots in really weird, bizarre places. Let's see. Watch, because seeing is believing. So watch these people pulling the ballots out of the dumpster. So there you have it. And these were apparently military ballots. So who do you think the military is voting for? Okay. I would assume that there's going to be a large percentage of Trump votes in military ballots. Just saying. But hey, that could just be me. But I would assume it would be more Trump supporters in those military ballots. So this is just fraud, okay? When we're seeing this stuff going on, it's fraud. And that is what Trump and many others have been trying to warn about throughout this whole process, is that mail-in ballots have been known to allow for massive fraud issues to occur. I mean, it's just really systemic. It's really bad. So here's another interesting one here. World champion boxer Joe Frazier voted this year in Pennsylvania's election. Problem is, he's been dead since 2011. They're finding all kinds of deceased people having voted in this election. Isn't that interesting? Right there, another instance of somebody deceased voting. And remember what Doug Collins said, every illegitimate vote replaces a legitimate vote. We cannot be having this. Oh, look. Here's a bunch of spoiled ballots that were found.
Just got done going
they were in
through
the garbage.
The 2 garbage bags that we obtained from Bucks County Board of Elections out of the dumpster. This is some of the ballot paraphernalia that we've discovered. You can see some signatures from some voters here. Looks like these ballots say spoiled on some of these. We have some pieces here. A number of envelopes with signatures. A couple full ones too. There's some more down here.
Just to reiterate, this does appear like an official ballot, and the rules were not followed correctly, right?
That's what it looks like to me.
Fair enough.
What reason would someone have to not follow that process?
Ignorance, not knowing, not understanding, brand new law.
So there's a detailed process in place?
Yes.
And this clearly shows that the process was not handled?
Yes, whoever was the judge of elections didn't do it correctly. The poll workers should not have thrown it in the garbage.
Is it legal to throw it in the garbage?
I do not know if it's legal to throw it in the garbage, but it should be sent back to us. And so we can hold on to it for, I believe it's 22 months.
Where does the spoiled ballot ultimately end up at the end of its life cycle?
It will be stored for 2 years and then it will be shredded.
So if we can just kind of start over with the spoiled ballots as to what happens with them once they become spoiled.
So they become spoiled and they're spoiled on them, and they're going into a spoiled bag that's kept in the warehouse after election day for a period of time. And I did talk to some, I believe it's 3 years, that we have to hold on to them. And then nothing gets thrown out. I believe after the period they get shredded, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
So there you have it. I mean, the Democrats were obviously willing to break all the rules in order to get their guy in office, to undermine a democratic election process, to steal the vote, to disenfranchise Trump supporters, to ensure that they got rid of the orange man that they all hate so much, because you really think all these Trump derangement people are not going to do anything they can to get him out of office? That is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go all out. But here's the good news. Trump is not a wet noodle. He's not going to back down. President Trump issued a statement today letting people know he's going to continue the fight. He's not stepping down. He knows that this election was stolen. He knows it was fraudulent. He's going to take it to court. He's going to have audits done. He's going to ensure that the American people get a free and fair election result, that we find out who was doing this, and that these only the fair true ballots get counted. So let's read what he says here. All right. He says, "We all know why Joe Biden is rushing to falsely pose as the winner, and why his media allies are trying so hard to help him. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The simple fact is this election is far from over. Joe Biden has not been certified as the winner of any states, let alone any of the highly contested states headed for mandatory recounts, or states where our campaign has valid and legitimate legal challenges that could determine the ultimate victor. In Pennsylvania, for example, our legal observers were not permitted meaningful access to watch the counting process. Legal votes decide who is president, not the news media." That's true. Many of these states have not even certified their election results. There is no official call for who is president. The mainstream media can try to say whatever they want, but it's not going to force the outcome that they're desiring. Beginning Monday, our campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated. The American people are entitled to an honest election. That means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ballots. This is the only way to ensure the public has full confidence in our election. It remains shocking that the Biden campaign refuses to agree with this basic principle and wants ballots counted even if they are fraudulent, manufactured, or cast by ineligible or deceased voters. Only a party engaged in wrongdoing would unlawfully keep observers out of the courtroom and then fight in court to block their access. So what is Biden hiding? I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote they deserve and that democracy demands. So there you have it. And so why are the Democrats trying to constantly take people to court for wanting a fair election? It seems like it's this constant struggle, right? I mean, we even saw it with the Kentucky election when the GOP was trying to purge the voter rolls of a bunch of old voters, like people who died, people who no longer lived in the state of Kentucky. They purged 175,000 people from the voter rolls that were not even eligible to vote in the state. Yet Democrats then went to court and sued and made sure that those purged voters were then put back on the voter rolls. I mean, these are the tactics because they know that they're actually losing popular support. They couldn't do it without this election system that they've created. And man, have they have perfected their election stealing tools. I'll tell you what, they really have. So go ahead and look at this article here where it literally shows you and tells you about how Kentucky Democrats win court ruling to have 175,000 purged inactive voters be put back up on the registry because they sued. And then guess what happened? Their Democrat governor won the race. And then what happened was Bevin, the Republican GOP politician, he stepped down. He conceded, even though his people had evidence of the election fraud because, we gave it to him. We gave him the evidence when we were leaked the evidence of the election voter fraud that happened down there in Kentucky. If you guys remember, during the Kentucky election, I was leaked by a whistleblower information pertaining to the Kentucky election voting system. I don't know who the whistleblower was, but they gave me audit logs. They gave me passwords of voting machines. They gave me bank transactions of the people who own these voting machines. They gave me a map of how the entire system works. And I handed that all over to Bevin and his people. And they sat down, they analyzed it all. They had a forensic team, everything. They had everything they needed there. But see, they just didn't want to challenge it in court because it cost a lot of money. And they just didn't see it being a favorable outcome for them. But see, Trump is not going to do that. Trump is going to push and push because even more important than whether or not he were to win, which we definitely would need him to win, but more important is we need to expose this voter fraud system. They've perfected it. So let's go over the voter fraud system. Now, we've heard a lot about Dominion and other electronic voting softwares that have now been popular where you hear, oh, there was a 6,000 vote glitch that happened. And then when they put it back in there, magically, the county flipped red. So let's talk about how that happens. You see, glitches can't happen because if they were just a glitch, then that would mean that someone could actually put something in there on purpose like that. And at that point, you don't really have a secure election, do you? You don't. Okay. So let's get started here. Let's talk about Hart Intercivic, which Seidel, basically Hart Intercivic subcontracts with Seidel. Seidel is a cloud service that does election counting. Let's look at Seidel. All right. So Seidel is a cloud service that tabulates U.S. elections and other countries' elections. So not just the U.S. elections, okay? Believe it or not, Seidel is a company that is ran out of Spain. Okay? It's a company that offers electronic vote counting services for all those electronic machines you've seen where they have all these really bizarre discrepancies. Hart Intercivic subcontracts with Seidel. I showed you guys the map. Let's see if I can pull up my map in my little notes here. The map of Michigan, where it showed how Hart Intercivic is in Michigan in multiple counties. It is the machine. I think this is it. It is the electronic voting software that they use in many of these Michigan counties that went blue. Let me show you. Okay, so this is a map here. It shows right here, if you can see up at the top, you see the light blue, Hart Intercivic. Okay, so all these light blue counties here, they are using Hart Intercivic electronic voting machines. Okay, and Seidel, which Hart Intercivic subcontracts with Seidel. Seidel is a cloud service in Spain. It's out of Spain, a foreign country. Why are we letting a foreign country run the cloud service for our electronic voting systems? It was shown that Seidel could have backdoor access to the vote counts and to the results. I mean, this is insanity that we're allowing. This is foreign meddling in our elections. And why is it being allowed to happen? Well, it's also interesting to note that Hart Intercivic is actually affiliated with Mitt Romney. Okay, and remember, Mitt Romney is a never-Trumper rhino. A never-Trumper rhino. Right, so let's look more at what we have here. More of what we have. It's going to take me just a moment to pull up some of my documents. I have so much stuff here that I'm just like, where did I put this? Where did I put that? Okay, so here you see where it says Seidel is the system that provides the electronic results to AP. So many of these other news organizations get their feed of election results from AP as well. So right here, they provide the AP election research and vote tabulations right there for the Associated Press. For each election, the AP election research and vote tabulation team needs to quickly and efficiently collect accurate election data at all levels of granularity. When a state or county uses Seidel's election night reporting solution, the data is easy to find and understand, allowing us to more quickly share election night results with AP member news organizations, election subscribers, and the public. So that's the connection. So people might wonder, well, when I'm watching these Google election results, or I'm watching, how do all these news organizations have this live feed of supposed votes, right? Well, now you know, okay? So they're getting their feed from Seidel, and Seidel's the cloud service that is connected to these electronic voting machines that has an entry and a doorway into those voting machines. Now, when we had researched out Hart Intercivic, we had found some stunning conflicts of interest because the owner of Hart Intercivic had owned not only Hart Intercivic, but owned a company that provided all the all the computer systems for the county. So the county recorder could then, look at their results and see, oh, it matches up with what the electronic voting systems say, because the owner of that company had a backdoor into their computer systems. I mean, These are obvious conflicts of interest, and that's what we were trying to point out with Kentucky, that look, this is how they're doing it, this is how they're stealing it. But see, these systems, the way they do it, it's so sophisticated that they don't even leave fingerprints when they're doing this stuff. I mean, it is very, very sophisticated. So let's talk a little bit now about Hammer. Okay, and some of these systems, and Scorecard, which are some of the systems that they use to essentially run these bogus electronic systems and steal the elections. Let's hear what Sidney Powell has to say about Scorecard.
They need to investigate, including the likelihood that 3% of the vote total was changed in the pre-election voting ballots that were collected digitally by using the Hammer program and a software program called Scorecard. That would have amounted to a massive change in the vote that would have gone across the country and explains a lot of what we're seeing. In addition, they ran an algorithm to calculate votes they might need to come up with for Mr. Biden in specific areas. I think that explains what happened in Michigan, where the computer glitch resulted in a change of votes of about 5,500 in favor of President Trump, just in one of 47 districts. All those districts need to be checked for that same, quote, software glitch, end quote, that would change the result in Michigan dramatically. The same thing is happening in other states. We've had hundreds of thousands of ballots mysteriously appear solely for Mr. Biden, which is statistically impossible as a matter of mathematics. It can all be documented. We are putting it into materials that we will file in federal court, and we need to seek relief in multiple states to enjoin the certification of any election results.
Tom Fitton, as you listen to Sidney, that sounds like a strong case for a straightforward allegation of fraud. The two programs that she just mentioned, I'm going to ask you right now, have you ever heard of them? Because I had not heard of them.
No, I mean, there have been noises about it on the internet, but I don't know anything beyond what Sidney's reporting now. I go back to the numbers you reported at the beginning of the segment. The president was winning on Tuesday, right. And he's not winning now. And he's not winning now as a result of a process that the voters can't have confidence in, the state legislatures can't have confidence in, in my view, the courts can't have confidence in. So the question is, are the courts going to undo what went on? I don't know. But the state legislatures in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, perhaps Arizona, they now have an opportunity to make a stand on behalf of the rule of law. Are they going to endorse what went on this week, or are they going to appoint a clean slate of electors that supports President Trump? That could be the next battle, and I would think that activists interested in this issue, and if you're concerned watching this, start talking to your state legislators. And I started asking where Congress is, because Congress, in the end, is going to be the judge of the electoral college votes. And if I were in Congress, I'd be telling these states, you better keep up on, you better be honest here, because we're not going to accept your votes if your election is a sham.
Well, Sidney, let's go back to Hammer and Scorecard. Are those the names that you just used for those programs? What's being done about it, and how broadly were they used by vote counters in various states?
I think they were very broadly used, but not by the vote counters. They were used by the forces in the Democratic operatives that had access to these programs through the government access points that they have, and used it illegally to change votes in this country. It's got to be investigated, probably by the president's most trusted military intelligence officials who can get into the system and see what was done. But we do have some evidence that that is exactly what happened. And they've used it against other entities in other countries. It's just been turned recently against our own citizens here to change election results. It's absolutely appalling that that can be done. And whether it's called computer glitches or something else, somebody has actually gone into the system and changed voting results.
That's called intervention in our elections, irrespective of, I guess if they were Russia or China, we'd refer to them as meddling. But it's intervention, and it's also crooked as hell, rigging this election no matter the jurisdiction, whether it's Michigan, Georgia, wherever it might be. What can we do about it? Because the Department of Justice, I mean, if there's evidence of that program, why not just turn it over to the Justice Department and say, and go to the courts and say, this has got to stop now. Here is the way in which it was done.
Well, we've been trying to get their attention, and we're going to try even harder, and we'll have to put it in.
And if you guys remember, Tori has actually described having worked for Hammer, but she never actually gave the official name. But now it seems like the name is out there.
Federal.
So she actually described Hammer and what that was and how it was created and affiliated with the John Brennan. So it's interesting now that this is becoming public, public discussion that everyone's talking about now.
Lawsuit, apparently, and get as much of it out as we possibly can. We have some excellent witnesses on the issue. But this is coup 5.0, Lou. I mean, there was no reason to think that the Democratic operatives who spent hundreds of millions of dollars creating the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, taking us through a special counsel operation for 2 years, trying an impeachment hoax, the apocalypse hoax, the obstruction hoax, wouldn't go so far as to create every means of voter fraud they could come up with to steal this election. That's exactly what happens. The president must fight back now in every way, shape, or form.
Now, here's my question to you all. Do you really think that the president and the team of people that he has, and the team of people that are monitoring this country, the NRO and other organizations, that they had no idea and that they never suspected that the Democrats were wanting to steal the election and that perhaps that was the whole reason for their mail-in ballot push? Do you really think that? I think that they're well aware. I don't think that Trump and his people are caught off guard here at all. In fact, I think that they knew that something like this was going to happen. And in fact, they might have set up and set in place certain protocols and ways to track it, monitor it, and then do a big bust. I mean, let's look at some of the evidence that that might be the case. Let's look at an executive order that President Trump did. This executive order was in 2017. 2017. It was the Presidential Executive Order on strengthening the cybersecurity of federal networks and critical infrastructure. Well, our elections are critical infrastructure. Without safe, secure elections, the country could cease to exist. I mean, our way of government would fail. You would have uncertainty and an inability to govern. So he put this executive order together, which then created CISA. Okay, let's talk about CISA. CISA is Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. CISA plays a huge role in infrastructure security. Okay? Critical infrastructure describes the physical and cyber systems and assets that are so vital to the United States that their incapacity or destruction would have debilitating impact on our physical or economic security or public health or safety. The nation's critical infrastructure provides the essential services that underpin American society. Let's think of it this way. If we were to have, let's say, even a foreign influence or a foreign country try to hack or figure out a way to fraudulently steal our elections from within our own country, that would cause a major infrastructure security problem, wouldn't it? So that's why they need systems and agencies like this to make sure and monitor the security of our elections. So it's a good thing that President Trump did this executive order to create this to ensure that proper elections are done in our country. So let's talk a little bit about now what we actually uncovered in our Sunrise Exposed videos. This is huge. You know, I didn't even realize what we had. I was getting all kinds of calls, contacts by DHS, by people, you know, in various three-letter agencies wanting access to the videos we had, and word got around with what we had after we put up that Twitter trailer, specifically the videos for the Feds for Democracy. That video right there, where you had literally federal agents, people that worked at DHS HQ for CISA, by the way, people that work for the Department of Energy, the Department of State. That's who we caught in those videos. Those were no small fries. Okay? Those were some big deep state operatives that had connections to even bigger deep state operatives. So we are actually aiding in an investigation to drain the swamp, so to speak. Let's go to the video here so you guys can see for yourself what was spoken about in this video, so that then it can give you some more context. And then after I show you it, I'm going to kind of give you the goods on what it all means. So let me see if I can find this. Here's Sunrise Exposed, by the way. If you guys still want to see this website, we've been uploading new videos, new content as we've been getting it. I'm going to give you guys an update as well on Sunrise after you watch this clip as far as what their latest plans are and what has happened subsequently after we have continued to release their information, their responses, and any type of legal crackdown that they have been receiving, which they have been receiving. So let me go ahead and... Nope, it's not this one. It is this one right here. Extended Feds for Democracy coup Zoom chat. If you have time to watch this video, guys, I suggest you do.
So
there's a lot of really good nuggets in here if you know what to look for. Which, this completely went over my head. I didn't even realize the gold that we had here. This is amazing. And still, until I started getting reached out to by DHS specifically about who was that person. So, it's not him. It's the girl he then introduces.
I'm not part of the executive branch. I'm one of those quasi-government things that reports directly to Congress. So in some respects, my job is maybe a little safer, but I want to learn what's going on in other agencies and how I can support. My favorite dessert is vanilla ice cream.
You're going to hear from Laura
And then we'll
Robb.
go to Laura Robb.
Hey guys, my name is Laura. I am also a federal contractor rather than a federal employee. I spent 3.5 years as a contractor at DHS HQ, which then became CISA, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. And I've recently finished that contract and I just started at the FDA. So I still have connections to the Fed team that I worked with at DHS. And I now have a very large network of FDA employees. And so I'm just sort of looking to see what behaviors I can model for my Fed clients and ways that I can be supportive of them.
Okay, let's back that up for a second. What she says is so unbelievably key. Okay? What she says is so key.
And then we'll go to Laura Robb.
Laura Robb, who says that she used to work at DHS HQ as a private contractor. Well, we all know from Shadowgate what private contractor means. It means you work in intelligence, but you have a little bit of a degree of separation, so you can be a little bit more protected. But that usually means you're doing some kind of clandestine work or putting your feet in more than one bucket, so to speak.
Hey guys, my name is Laura. I am also a federal contractor rather than a federal employee. I spent 3.5 years as a contractor at DHS HQ, which then became CISA, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency.
So she worked in CISA, the cyber. I mean, she worked at CISA, guys. This is insane. This is the agency that's supposed to be overseeing our elections for election integrity. This woman here who's in these Zoom chats with these radical progressive leftists who are talking about having a coup and insurrection and abusing their official capacity in their office that they hold to run an insurrection. This is insane. Do you understand like the magnitude here when these leftist groups are already pre-planning that they are going to have street actions to claim that they're going to be having a counter coup against Trump? Why did they pre-plan to have a counter coup against Trump? It's because they're going to claim that he is running a coup because they were planning on stealing the election from the get-go. They were planning on stealing the election. Then the media is going to call they steal it. The media calls it for Biden. Trump refuses to step down and concede. So what do they need to do? They've got their foot soldiers all planned out, ready to go, ready to hit and target the donors, target the addresses of all these news stations to ensure they stay in line with the narrative, targeting individuals at their homes, all throughout the U.S. and especially in D.C., shutting down government. These are their plans to ensure that Biden gets in. So when you have people who work Department of State, especially like this woman here, Laura Robb, who says that she worked at DHS HQ for CISA, which CISA is the agency that's very high level that oversees our election integrity systems to make sure we have infrastructure security so we don't have undermined elections. This woman here who's talking with these radicals about running a coup on the president had access to information that CISA was using to secure elections. Who do you think she was leaking it to? In their Zoom feeds, they talk on and on about how they leak information, how they use their capacity. She then talks about how she moved to the FDA, but then kept her contacts with her original DHS HQ team, still chains of communication there, still having those networks at DHS, and then also building networks at the FDA. She talks about modeling behaviors, because remember in Shadowgate we talked about ClearForce and all these tools that they use to run predictive behavioral programs on employees and on people in intelligence so that they could see whether or not somebody was likely to commit a crime or to leak or to engage in maybe subterfuge or to be subversives, basically, right? So if you know what that modeling is to model those behaviors, you could then seek out those who wished to potentially engage in these radical activities. I mean, just think, these people are very sophisticated. Let's listen to it, the rest of it right now, and then we'll go to Sunrise and some of the updates on that.
of FDA employees. And so I'm just sort of looking to see.
Favorite dessert is vanilla ice cream.
And I just started at the FDA. So I still have connections to the Fed team that I worked with at DHS. And I now have a very large network of FDA employees. And so I'm just sort of looking to see what behaviors I can model for my Fed clients, and ways that I can be supportive of them, and just sort of how can I
Okay,
make.
so there you have it, guys. That is Laura Robb, a former DHS employee that worked in CISA, who then now communicates with people at DHS, who then still works at the FDA and is building networks there to undermine the President of the United States, talking with her Zoom chat buddies at Shutdown DC, Sunrise Movement, Black Lives Matter, and other radical organizations, plotting their coup action against President Trump. There's that. So let's talk a little bit about the Sunrise Movement and what's been going on with them. So Sunrise, as you may see, it's been pretty quiet, hasn't it? It sure has been pretty quiet on the Sunrise front. A lot of them have kind of not been out riding right now. Well, it's because they have put out a memo that because they can try to declare this Biden victory, that this weekend they're actually going to be partying outside the White House. And you can see the videos of them partying outside the White House in DC. I'll show you right now. And then they plan after that to, let me show you. After this, they plan on Monday to start up again protesting their actions against Trump. So today is Celebrate. On Monday is the day they get back in line with their plan to force Trump out. So there you have it, okay? So also, the Black Lives Matter groups have been being accused by the DC Metro Police of being involved in the stabbing of Enrique Torres, the Proud Boys leader, and Beverly Beatty, the girl who poured black paint over the Black Lives Matter street art that was put there by the city. So she was stabbed, and Enrique was stabbed, and a couple others were stabbed by a group of masked assailants wearing black. And we provided information to the authorities, videos of them talking about knowing about them being there at the location prior, and other people providing information. Lo and behold, they then are being investigated, and the DC police has released a statement on that. So that caused them to get very paranoid. We had a shutdown where their communications went pretty silent. Only more recently, after Biden's so-called victory was announced by the mainstream media, have they started chatting again and picking back up on communications. So it says, this weekend, party celebrate. Monday, they're going to get back in action, protesting and getting loud and going on with their initial plan, their coup action plan that they had initially said they were going to do, because they're demanding to force Trump out of the White House. That is their plan. So it's interesting to see how all of this is all panning out. It really is interesting. Let's go back to evidence of voter fraud, because there's so much out there. There really is. I know James O'Keefe has been doing an amazing job. Judicial Watch has been doing an amazing job. There are so many organizations out there that are fighting really hard. I know Trump has been asking people to give donations right now so that he can form a legal defense and go ahead and start suing and doing everything he needs to do to fight back, because you better believe it, he is going to fight back, okay? So I actually have a lot of hope here, because I think that this is going to expose massive voter fraud. It's going to expose this so that we can hopefully get back on track to having free election systems, because that's the most important thing at the end of the day. We also don't want to let these psychos in power who have been putting lists up. I don't know if you guys have all heard this, but AOC and other radical leftists who are in power and who were part of the Obama administration, who were on Pete Buttigieg's campaign, tweeted out last night that they are taking names. They are making a list of people that helped support Trump, that worked for Trump, particularly targeting anyone who worked in his campaign, who worked for the GOP, who in any public capacity was a major voice. So that probably includes me. I would assume I'm on their list. But this is fascism. I mean, this is what communist leaders would always do. It definitely set off a big stir on social media when people were responding to these people saying that they're going to make a list. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And it's not just about Democrat and Republican, okay? It's about establishment and Americans. It's about people who want globalist governance and who want American freedoms and American governance and want a constitution. That's what it boils down to. So let's see if I can find some of these viral tweets. I know I had tweeted it out. It's just there's been so much going on with this election. It has been insanity. By the way, on my Twitter feed, you can actually find the template for the letter that Tory put together that a bunch of people are now mailing to the White House. So if you guys want to mail that out, it's only going to cost you like 50 cents for 2 stamps, and then you can send that off to President Trump. Let him know that you support him, that you want him to fight, that you want him to do whatever he can to make sure there's an audit of these ballots. We need to catch them. It's more important than him even just winning. What's important is maintaining integrity and catching the fraud in action. There have been too many instances of fraud to let this go unchecked. Way too many. And by the way, Secretary Esper did officially submit his letter of resignation, which is very interesting because of his ties to one of the women that was mentioned in the Sunrise videos. So that's very interesting right there. Let's look at this press conference here where the Michigan GOP chair gives an update on election while I try to find those other tweets about the list.
Came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity. Antrim County had to hand count all of the ballots, and these counties that use this software need to closely examine their results for similar discrepancies. The people of Michigan deserve a transparent and open process. If all this wasn't enough, in Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates.
Okay. So, I believe I know where it is. Right here. Okay, so Twitter is censoring it now. Oh, the tweet is unavailable. So did she... Oh, she deleted it. Oh, no. She deleted it. I think I have a screenshot of it I could put up from my phone. That is insane. Why is it not showing on there? It was Emma. Okay, I'll read it off for you because for some reason it's still showing up on my phone here. It says, we're launching the Trump Accountability Project to make sure anyone who took a paycheck to help Trump undermine America is held responsible for what they did. Okay, so let's then go to the Trump Accountability website they have. There it is, right there. The Trump Accountability Project, which a bunch of Democrats are tweeting out, former Obama administration people, this woman who worked on Pete Buttigieg's campaign, and even AOC was talking about it, mentioning a list. She says, we should welcome in our fellow Americans with whom we differ politically, but those who took a paycheck from the Trump administration should not profit from their efforts to tear our democracy apart. The world should never forget those who, when faced with a decision, chose to put their money, their time, and their reputations behind separating children from their families, encouraging racism and anti-Semitism, and negligently causing the unnecessary loss of life and economic devastation from our country's failed response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is who they're going to go after, they say. Those who elected him, individuals who worked for the Trump campaign, the Republican National Committee, and affiliated PACs in 2016 or 2020, those who staffed his government, so individuals who worked in any role as a politician, a political appointee in the Trump administration, those who funded him, individuals who used their massive personal wealth and influence to bundle money for Trump. So they mean business, folks. I don't know if I can find some of the other tweets or if they've just deleted them all, but it's pretty serious. Let's see, AOC list. It went pretty viral all last night. Everyone was talking about, oh my gosh, AOC, here we go. She talks about archiving these Trump. She says, is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. And then, you know, look at this. LOL at the party of personal responsibility, being upset at the idea of being responsible for their behavior over the last 4 years. And then other people are talking about how this guy says, I was born in a communist country and fled with my parents, and 100% agree, don't let this happen here, SHAT happen here. It starts all nice and honky-dory like a cult, and then one day they will spy on you and shoot you on sight if you're trying to escape and question the system. So there's a lot of people right here. This is exactly what happened in my country, Venezuela. They make a list of 3 million people. Everyone was banned for any state benefit or any job. Thousands were fired after that list, me included. This tactic is a common practice in the twins' ideologies, fascism, socialism. Yeah, so people who have fled communism, socialism, they're very concerned seeing these Democrats, the minute they get power, already talking about making lists to retaliate against their political opponents. This is insane. People who have lists of those who thought differently from them. They were arrested, put into camps, tortured, and murdered. So KGB, Soviets, Stasi, Chavez gave a name to people on his list. Nazi Party, CCP lists of Uyghurs, currently over 1 million in re-education camps, and AOC. Wow. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? But I'm not surprised, and I'll tell you why. See, I was reached out to some sources who I will not name, that after I was arrested, pretty much let me know about this thing called the list. This is not new. They're just making this is like a cover story. Like, oh, let's play around with it in the public. They already have a list. This is not some new thing. Oh, let's just make a list. They already have a list. Okay? They already have it. And I know I'm on it. That's for sure. Unfortunately, the deep state pulled the trigger a little bit soon on me. You see, from what I know, they didn't know what we were going to release in Shadowgate. The MIC, the military industrial complex, was very worried that we were going to release something classified or, you know, they thought, from what I hear, they thought we might have had Hillary's emails, which is pretty ridiculous. But given our sources, I mean, I guess they might have a reason to think something like that, but it's pretty ridiculous for them to even think that in the first place. I don't know. It's bizarre. So that's what I'm hearing. They thought we were going to release something big, and we didn't. But you see, while Shadowgate was literally sending, it was literally sending to Tori when the police showed up at our house. It was on the laptop. Laptop was downstairs in the basement. We transferring the video to Tori. The police show up. The video was probably about just uploading within minutes. Like, it was like it probably uploaded within a couple minutes, or sent it to her within a couple minutes of us being arrested. We were arrested at like 12:05 p.m. Okay? And there was nothing they could do about it at that point because we had already sent it off to Tori. And the police literally show up and are like, don't even know who they're arresting. They don't even have paperwork in hand. It was like a rushed thing. You know? From what I hear, we're in the jurisdiction for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And that apparently it would have been really easy to have had us at this jail here and then transferred us to an espionage jail. So, I mean, what's going on right now is insane, guys. It's very creepy. They were worried. But what is in Hillary's emails that they're so worried about? What is in it? I don't even know. I don't have it. I've heard that it has stuff regarding Scorecard and Hammer in it, but I don't know, you see, because I don't have it. But that's why they did a knee-jerk reaction. They thought, we talked real big in that trailer, okay? And then everything we released, we were allowed to release. Everything that was out there was allowed to be out there. But we told a story so that you guys could put the full picture together. You see? And that's what was key. And also what they did to me really showed and revealed themselves to all of you. Because it went right in line with their MO and what they do and how they do things. Okay? Even how they put my original charge said burglary in the system. Okay? When they gave me the paperwork, it said burglary. Okay? Then, hours later, okay, their systems crashed and down the whole time. Then, hours later, at nighttime, they book me on an entirely different charge, robbery, which is a different criminal code. And then the original paperwork they had given me that said burglary, they took it from me. And then they gave me new paperwork when they put me in the residential cell area. And that residential cell area was horrible. It was psychological torture, let's just say, the whole thing, what I went through. But they gave me new paperwork and it said robbery. So how do you change it? And the stamp was backdated for the same date that the original stamp was for, July 20th. So it was like they just made it up. They made it up. And then when you look in the system now, you only ever see a record of that paperwork for robbery with that stamp. But do you remember how we talked about in Shadowgate, how usually when there's these hacks and their systems are down, it's so they can swap paperwork, right? Why would they have needed to swap the paperwork? Well, because the burglary charge wasn't going to work. Because they were trying to claim I burgled my own home. That doesn't work because that requires trespassing. So how could they let the fraud continue? Oh, make a new document. hack, oops, we messed up, boom, put the new paperwork in. That's why it took so long. Everyone's like, why is it taking so long to book you? That was why they had to make up new paperwork. I mean, the whole thing was a sham. It was torture. They woke me up like every hour, banging on my door, saying, wake up, I need to see your face. It was just psychological torment. I remember sitting there with some of the other people. I was in a special area, a maximum security special area with only a handful of other girls. There's like 4 girls or 5 girls total. Okay. And the way the walls were built in that building, it made it so that the echoes were so clangy that it was like it would mess with when you talked, the way you heard your own voice back. It was like even a whisper was amplified. Some weird stuff. By the end of it, through all the sleep deprivation, food deprivation, weird acoustical noises, lights on 24/7, freezing cold, having to shower in front of video cameras. All us girls were sitting there, we were trying to play a game of sorry. We were all so brain fried from this that we couldn't even keep track of whose turn it was. You know, it was just sick. It felt like some kind of torture. So that was that experience. And meanwhile, while all that's happening, they're telling me they're going to take my children from me forever. And that they've already got foster parents lined up for my kids. I mean, it's insanity. And I am going to be making a big documentary on this whole thing. You guys are going to get to see all the evidence we have. I'm going to spell it all out for you. Okay? And this was from a Democrat prosecutor, Victor Viglucci, and that Democrat courthouse, who many of the people around here in the community, I've got neighbors who have, you know, my neighbor's boyfriend's girlfriend or whatever worked at the courthouse, and a bunch of them were fired for being Trump supporters. This is the stuff we're dealing with right now in this country. It's serious business. So when you see these Democrats goofing around about a list, take it serious. Take it serious. Because first they're going to come for Trump. They're going to come for his administration. They're come for all the people around him. They're going to come for journalists like me that just put it out there and give you guys the truth. You guys realize you can't trust Fox News, right? You realize that now. I showed you in Shadowgate 1 and especially in Shadowgate 2 who Fox News was. How they have intelligence assets working there. How the military-industrial complex controls Fox News. So, of course, at the moment it counted most, Fox News failed you and failed Trump. Now, there are some good people that work at Fox News. Don't get me wrong. Tucker Carlson's a good guy. So is Janine. Janine Pirro lost her show. They canceled her show temporarily because Janine Pirro was being too supportive of President Trump. She wanted to actually air the evidence of the election fraud. So what did they do? They canceled her show. Look at right here. Fox News suspends justice with Judge Janine over Trump. Right there. So even if there are some good people at Fox News, the minute they step out of line, they get the cane. Yeah. Sources told Newsmax the show was suspended over a spat on the network's coverage of President Donald Trump. Sources close to the network tell Newsmax because she made a very staunch defense of President Trump and wanted to expose the fraud that took place in the election, Fox News decided not to air her show. It had extended coverage of Democrat Joe Biden's acceptance speech of a contested election instead. There you have it. You can't count on Fox News. You can't. And that's a scary thing because that means that the left has information dominance. And it's really just not the left. It's the mainstream media. It's the military industrial complex that has information dominance. They control both sides. They control the rhinos, the establishment puppet sellouts on the left and the right. And Trump, he's our president. He's our guy. He's an American president. We actually got a real president in that was elected by real people. That hasn't happened for a long time. It's always been false alternatives. Bushes, Clintons, Bushes, Clintons. False alternatives. They're just two wings of the same bird. Trump managed to get in there. He's been the first real president since JFK. And I know some of you guys are going to be like, oh, well, Reagan. Well, we'll talk about Reagan another time. I mean, he did do some good things here, guys. But remember Barry Seal. Remember the drug running. Remember all that stuff that happened while he was there. Okay? We won't get too much into it. Anyway, you know, this just goes to show how crucial it is to even have social media, to have a presence on social media. Look at, I mean, how we're trying to be as effective as we can, speaking out. People like myself, James O'Keefe, Judicial Watch, and others. We're trying to be effective. There's a lot of good people still on social media. However, a lot of good people have been banned from social media. And it's only going to continue. They've already been censoring the president. I mean, I've seen several of his tweets censored. Look at this. They put claims about election fraud disputed. They put these little disclaimers on all his tweets now. They only have started to do this since election night. Look at all of these tweets. They are censoring the president of the United States. Don't you think the American people should have the right to just, like, you know, see it? If they're putting these censors on here, are they then also slowing that down? Look, it doesn't even show any hearts on there. It's like they're completely censoring him. Can't even see how many people liked his tweets or retweet. It's like insanity. So if they're doing this to the president, that means we're next. The reason they hate Trump is because they hate you. They hate us. They hate flyover country. Okay? They hate guns. They hate the Constitution. Why? Because these people are puppets for other interests. Okay? Like global government, the big bankers, the UN, these other organizations that operate outside the United States and think that they should control the United States. And these people are sellouts. They're being blackmailed. I mean, Hunter Biden, with all the criminal stuff surrounding these people, Hillary Clinton and her scandals, they just seem to have immunity, right? Well, who controls the system? That's the real thing. Who controls the system? But it's not over yet. It's not over yet because there are some really good people and intelligence in our own government that have been rebelling. They've been rebelling. They've been forming networks. Believe it or not, there are also a lot of really good people inside CISA. Because remember, Trump was the one who had it created. Okay, so even though this Laura Robb girl seemed to have been a rat inside CISA, there are a lot of really good people inside CISA. And maybe it's compartmentalized, and maybe she only knew some of it. But I've heard that there's a possibility that we're going to be able to see how these ballots were trafficked, how it all went down, and be able to finger point the people who did it. And that it's possible that indictments are coming. I know for sure that there's a very likely chance that there are going to be indictments against some of these Sunrise folks, especially those who are working in government and using their government powers to subvert the president and misuse and abuse their power in their positions in government. They're being paid by government taxpayer dollars, and they don't have a right to conspire against the American people. So, I think that pretty much sums up my update for today. I just want to thank you guys all so much for supporting me. We need independent journalism more than ever, and that even includes you guys. If any of you guys can go out there and do what it takes to just videotape. If you have your phone, go out there and videotape. Go to these voting locations, go to these protests, go everywhere you can and videotape and document evidence, because the mainstream media has failed us time and time again. Doesn't matter if it's Fox News, CNN, whatever, they fail us without fail. We need true journalism. We need people like you to get up and to take a stand and to get active. I was once somebody just like you watching. I was. And then I just decided to get active. and do things, okay? And look how I really do feel, not trying to toot my own horn here, but I really do feel I'm making an impact, okay? With what we've exposed with Sunrise and Shadowgate and many of the other videos that I've put out, including covering the 2016 election with Hillary Clinton and just the bogus impeachments and the bogus shams that the Democrats are trying to run throughout this entire past 4 years. You know, I like to feel that we've been effective. And if you guys think that my journalism is worth keeping and is effective, please consider donating to my Subscribestar or donating on my website to my PayPal. Because our team of people, it's not just me. I've got a team, a little team, but a little team of people here. And my YouTube income has been cut off. My employment income, after you guys all know that Alex Jones fired me, has been cut off. And I don't have a way to really make money other than selling shirts and from you guys donating. Obviously, there's always an option of going and working for another media company, which, let me tell you, I have had other media companies offer. But you see, there always comes strings with that. So I do worry. I don't know whether or not some media outlets would be okay with me working there and completely being independent and choosing every single thing I want to report, do, and say, or if I'd have to tone things down or whatever else. And so I would prefer to be independent. So please go to millennialmillie.com to support my work and my journalism and that of my teams. We need all the help and support we can get right now. I know these are scary times. I know that, you know, we're all worried right now, but we need to band together. I would love to grow my team of people to make my operation even more effective. So if you guys please go and make a purchase today on millennialmillie.com, you will be funding true independent journalism. Cancel your Fox News subscriptions. Cancel your subscriptions to these mainstream media cable networks. Support true journalism. Okay? America needs true journalism. So thanks so much. I want to just say we do have some pretty awesome Shadowgate t-shirts, which are limited edition, and they have really quality spot prints on them. We only get the most high quality stuff. We don't mess around with low quality. We also have quality stickers as well. We have sticker packs, $5.95. You get 3 stickers, the Millennial Millie sticker, Shadowgate sticker, and this awesome challenge coin with the Shadowgate skull where he's holding the earth with the code in it from outer space. And the Millennial Millie stickers are really cool too. This helps spread the message as well, like the Shadowgate bumper sticker would. If you put it on your car, put it on something. We also have signed Drain the Swamp posters and signed Shadowgate posters. We have women's hats, the pink and white, the men's hats, black and gray. These hats are really cool. It's got that Shadowgate coin on there to show you how, you know, the psyops and how they try to run the world. Shadowgate. So anyway, I just thank you guys all for your support. That I know many of you guys have been very supportive, and I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and it really allows us to keep functioning and keep running these operations, and I couldn't be doing what I'm doing right now without all of you. So I just want to thank you guys all, and these are tough times. We are going to be going through a little bit of a hard time right now with this process, but we need to stay strong. We need to stay strong for our president, and our president is going to fight for us. That's what we need to do, and we need to be getting out. We need to be protesting. We need to be demanding an audit of the vote. We need to be keeping our spirits high. We need to be praying. We need to be tapping into the Holy Spirit and calling on God to guide us so that we can battle these people, because, you know, we are God's soldiers. We are his people. He can guide us to take the right actions if we pray and we listen. So that's the important key thing here, is to pray, to listen, and then to also be willing to do the work, because it's not just sitting down watching TV, watching Netflix or anything. We have to get up and do something. We have to be active. If you can keep your American government, then you can keep it. You know, if you want to have this liberty and these freedoms, you got to work for it. And there's people who go out there and die on the battlefield. There's our ancestors who died in World War I. There's World War II veterans. There's people who have given their lives to fight for this country, and we need to be willing to stand up, because in, you know, comparison, what we're doing is we're not even having to necessarily fight on battlefields. We're just having to get active. Let's get active so it never comes to anything like that. Because do we want to wait until these people try to steal our guns from us in the middle of the night? Let's watch this powerful video. I just want to show you this to leave on a really positive note. I'm going to show you this really incredible and inspirational speech from a young woman named Shamika Michelle. She gave this speech in Detroit to a bunch of protesters who were out there, you know, demanding election integrity. So let's hear from Shamika Michelle, because I'll kind of jump around in here a little bit with her speech, but I recommend you watch it. I tweeted it out. It's very powerful.
Imagine that woman knows the devastation that Democrats have caused to the black community and to black families all over America. Democrats are definitely evil. Yes, they are. Imagine that woman understands that 1,000 black babies are killed every day, while Democrats still want to push abortion on everyone. Imagine that Democrats continue to hold the black community down, and this woman sees that as there's no way that you found that many votes overnight. And I don't care what anyone says. They are not going to allow me as a black woman to think that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama. We know exactly what Biden did to the black community with the 1994 crime bill. There's no way that I believe these people went out and voted for him in mass numbers. While I believe that a lot of black people suffer from Stockholm Syndrome, I don't believe that they're all stupid. The Democrats, take this from me, and I'm saying it loud and clear. The Democrats are full of shit. Hell has no fury like a woman scorned, but it really has no fury like a black woman pissed the fuck off. People say, oh, y'all are just angry. Now it's Republican tears. Listen here, I'm not here to cry in the streets like those bitch liberals did in 2016. I'm mad. I'm angry. I am here because I believe in this nation. I am here because I believe that what happened has not been right. I believe that they are lying. I believe that they are cheating. I believe that they are trying to steal this election. I'm not here whining and crying. That's not why I'm here. I am here because I am a patriot. I am here because I am confident that they are lying. I am here because I believe in each and every one of you who went out and voted to save this country. And we will not be silent, and we will not back down. I am here because we are going to fight. We will fight. And I am here to declare victory. Because we know who won. We know who won this election. Because we are not stupid. And while many are the walking dead, we are awake. that's exactly what's going on here, and we will not stand for it. So we're not going to whine. We're not going to cry. We are going to fight.
Fight, 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 fight.
It's time to fight back and win.
We declare victory today. We are declaring victory. We are declaring victory. We are declaring victory. A new movement is born. We won. We won. We won.
We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won. We won.
In this victory, I just want you to see just one thing for me, please, because we won and we are declaring victory.
Hell yeah.
Fuck you! Fuck you! I'm sorry, I'm just trying to see if I need to get into the fight. I'm always ready. I'm always about that life. So I just needed to see if I needed to jump in. Because you know, black girls, we don't sit here and cry. We Vaseline our face, take our earrings off and our shoes off. I just needed to see if it was time for me to set it off. I didn't know if I needed to tie my hair up or what. I was just making sure. But listen, we are here to declare victory. We're not crying. We are not whining. We are champions.
Yeah!
We are the champions, my friends. Come on, sing that shit now.
We'll keep on fighting till the end.
Well, who are we?
We are the
And we ain't got time for those things. Why?
Because we are
We're the best. Double clap for the winner.
Awesome. So there you have it. There's a little bit of inspiration right there. Shamika Michelle did an amazing job giving a speech. You guys can find her on Twitter at Shamika Michelle. So go ahead and give her a follow. She rocks. She's awesome. We always want to support patriots who just speak powerfully and truthfully like that. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for following along with me on tonight's broadcast. I will be continuing to give you guys regular updates and show you what's been happening as far as the information that we've been seeing as far as election fraud, election meddling and interference, and just covering political events. So you guys can also follow me at Millie_Weaver on Twitter. I don't know, you could follow me on Facebook, but I wouldn't even bother because you probably won't see my notifications because Facebook shadow bans me really bad on there. But if you really want to make sure you don't get, if you want to make sure you get my content, even if I get banned, we have a newsletter on my site, millennialmillie.com. It's free to sign up for, and that way we can send out emails to you guys and newsletters so that you can always be checking to make sure that, you know, the latest news and things can be received to you even if I get banned on social media. So thank you so much, you guys. Have a good night. Stay strong. Keep praying. We are going to fight back and we're going to win. This is Millie Weaver.